Hello everyone, it's that time again. Rich Hagon and Pro Tour historian Brian David-Marshall with you to set the scene for the final act of this 15-month season. BDM set the scene for us, not so much what's at stake, but how will we see the drama unfold? What's the format? How do the days work?
Well, there's plenty of drama that needs unfolding. It's stacked about this high, and the way we're gonna do that is we're gonna start with 3 rounds of draft. We're gonna then move into 5 rounds of standard, and standard is as fat as it ever gets in its life cycle, right? We have 2 core sets, M14 and M15, and 2 full blocks of cards in standard. So players are gonna play 3 rounds of draft with M15, 5 rounds of standard with added M15, and a 4-4 record is what you need to get through to day 2.
Okay, and now day 2's exactly the same as day 1?
Exactly the same thing, except, you know, not everyone makes it there.
Right. So why don't we see some of the M15 cards that are going to be central to our many and diverse plots through the weekend. And we're going to start with a thing that we've called GGs, because it's Goblin Rabblemaster, Genesis Hydra, and Generator Servant. Away you go.
Well, I mean, these are some of the cards that people have to work with in this new standard format. Goblin Rabblemaster, you know, you look at it, you know, other goblin creatures attack, you control attack. That sounds like a drawback, but really it's just reinforcing proper play.
Yes.
If you're playing goblins, you want to be attacking, but it also means you start to get a 1/1 red goblin creature every time you're attacking at the beginning of your combat step, and then when the Rabblemaster attacks, it gets a little bonus. So you can get out of control. I did a segment with Stanislav Sivka, and he was like, I hate this card.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's like, because I'm gonna just lose to it when I play against Petr Brozek at like the local Grand Prix circuit.
Right. Genesis Hydra is relatively clear. The more you do with it, the more you can do with it.
But and is a card that's already made its impact on standard. We've seen a mono green devotion deck in the preceding standard open series that have been out there.
Yeah.
We've seen this card do well.
Talk to me about the excitement, potentially, of 2 extra mana on Generator Servant.
I mean, Generator Servant's, you know, 2 1s for 2. We've seen these cards get played in constructed decks, but, you know, that ability to jump from 3 to 5 mana on turn 3 with this, and, you know, to have that creature have haste, well, suddenly, you know, you can do some pretty exciting things. You also don't have to use it on a creature, but if you do use it on a creature, actually, if you use it on even 2 creatures, by the way. So one of the interesting things that might not be readily apparent from this, if you take your Generator Servant mana and you go, okay, I'm gonna put 1 of this mana from the Generator Servant into this, you know, Kinsbale Skirmisher, and then I'm gonna put the other 2 from this into my another 1 from this into my Goblin Rabblemaster, and then I'll tap the rest of my mana. Now I have 5 mana. Your Rabblemaster and your Skirmisher gain haste. It doesn't have to just be spent on 1 creature.
Oh, that's so clever.
Yeah.
That's really good.
And, you know, it lets you just do, you know, some really kind of interesting things in constructed, where maybe you're jumping to 6 mana on turn 4 for a Soul of Ravnica.
Okay, we've shown you 3 creatures there, but pretty much in all formats, Planeswalkers are a big deal. We've got a couple of reprints in Magic 2015, but we also have 4 new Planeswalkers in town. Why don't we take a look? And here they are in all their assorted glory. Nissa Worldwaker, Garruk Apex Predator, Jace the Living Guildpact, and Ajani Steadfast. If you had to pick one for its impact on this Pro Tour, which would you choose and why?
I think Nissa Worldwaker. I think Mono Green Devotion has a good chance to be one of the breakout decks of this tournament. It's certainly the first new deck we've seen come out of the standard format, and I think you'll see teams want to iterate on that deck and try to improve it, and Nissa is just a big part of that. But, I mean, I've heard tale of all 4 of these Planeswalkers being played in decks, so.
Right, so we can expect to see a lot of Planeswalker action.
In general, people want to play with Planeswalkers.
Yeah.
They're good.
And let's
They're
not forget
powerful.
Liliana and Chandra, who of course are also in the mix.
Garruk might be the most exciting, though, because he, you know, kills the other Planeswalkers.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, very, very important. 7 mana, though, could be an issue.
Yeah, well, you know, you get to 9 mana in the Green Devotion deck, and you Genesis Hydra it into play, whatever.
Okay, We're going to go back to creatures next. Let's look at a row of 5 to give you an idea of what could be going on here. We've got a 1/2 in Heliod's Pilgrim there. Next up, the mythic Soul of Ravnica. Hornet Queen, not actually a new card, but very much new to standard.
New to standard, for sure.
Sunblade Elf, and then Yisan the Wanderer Bard. What strikes your eye here?
I think Heliod's Pilgrim is a kind of maybe sleeper card in this format. Like it can do, you know, the easy example of this is it lets you go get Chain to the Rocks, right? When Heliod's Pilgrim enters the battlefield, search your library for an aura card. Chain to the Rocks is an aura. So, you know, it lets you go get cards that are, you know, that you want to find. It gives you redundancy. Feels a little Stoneforge Mystic-y.
Yes, sure.
In some ways. So it's just an interesting card to me. I mean, Soul of Ravnica, you know, 6/6 flyers for 6. We've always seen them do well in standard. Sunblade Elf, you know, will Craig Wesco, you know, attack with a creature that relies on green and white? Well, what about Brian Kibler? You know, players who have a preference for those very aggressive green and white strategies. Hornet Queen, again, the green devotion deck. Again, this is a card that goes into that deck. And Yisan the Wanderer Bard is just, I mean, it's very value-y. You know, it has value. It gives Magic players love that. They have a hard time, you know, not playing creatures that do that. So I'm excited about those cards.
Okay, some non-creature cards. Let's give you some more toys to play with. Spirit Bonds, Necromancer Stockpile, Waste Not, and Perilous Vault. I've got to be honest, Perilous Vault excites me a lot because it does exactly the kind of thing that I would want to do when I was going, here's an Avineral's disc, and here's my guy that I'm going to save, blink it out.
Right, my Aetherling. You know, this isn't a format with Aetherling, so, you know, you just have a control deck. You bounce things, you counter things, you draw cards with Chase's Ingenuity, you attack with your Aetherling, you phase it out of the game, and you pop your Perilous Vault, and you exile everything.
Worth noting that the enchantment Waste Not is one of 15 cards in Magic 2015 that was designed by external designers. In this case, the entire Magic community. So well done on a very complicated and very unusual card, which may yet see play in standard.
It very well could. A Necromancer Stockpile. This is kind of like a fingers crossed slide. Like, you really hope people find these cards. Necromancer Stockpile is a card that, you know, works well with the green, black zombies that are out there. It works well. It's very, very well with Timoret.
Well, that's some of the cards that we're going to see. But what are all the races? Well, we're not going to get through all of the races.
It's dizzying.
But why don't we start with the Player of the Year leaderboard as things stand, because that's going to bring a lot of things into perspective for you. So let's take a look at that. And what you're going to see is 2 players at the pinnacle of their game, up front, BDM, really looking to get the job done. Reed Duke and, of course, Jeremy Design.
Yeah, Jeremy Design. Yeah, I did interviews with 2 players who are behind them in the standings, and they're just not even close. You look and you see Stanislav Sivka, Sean McLaren, Owen Turnwald, like, they're almost 20 points back of Jeremy Design and Reed Duke, 71 and 70 points. The Player of the Year race is almost certainly just going to come down to these 2 players.
Yeah. Tomorrow evening, you can see a terrific piece. Jeremy and Reed came in to the news desk set to talk about their seasons, to set up this titanic battle. And remember, it could be a tie, and we'll have a second ever Player of the Year playoff if Reed beats Jeremy by 1 point. But you see so many great names there, and BDM, third name down on the other side of the column, 46 points.
Yeah.
Talk to us about Jared Betcher.
Jared Betcher is having a Pro Tour debut this season, the likes of which we just haven't seen. He's got a 9th place finish. He's got a 10th place finish. He's got multiple Grand Prix top 8 finishes. And, you know, he didn't even play in the first Pro Tour of this season. He is locked for platinum, and he is all but assured a berth at the World Championships as the Rookie of the Year. I mean, lots of bad stuff would have to happen for him to not be the rookie.
24 players will go to the World Championship, but for the World Magic Cup, the second part of Worlds Week, 72 captains will be locked in by Sunday night. We've chosen a dozen of the best races just to give you an idea of the countries that are going to be desperately looking to see who their captain is going to be. Let's take a very quick look through them. Australia, Justin Chung leads the way. Daniel Unwin and Patrick Robertson, they need round about the top 8. For For Belgium, it's Nicolas van der Hallen in the lead, with Grand Prix winner Alexander Darras and top 8 man Johan Verhulst.
Brazil is one of the races that I'm watching.
For sure.
Paulo Vitor Damarosa has 27 points. That's like a month for him in some of his best seasons. It's very quiet for him. He's about due for another top 8. I'm curious to see if he can hunt down Willie Adel here and get the World Magic Cup championship title.
Let's move on. One of the best matchups going is the Canadian World Magic Cup race. There's 5 of them in the running there, headlined by Sean McLaren. Then you get Alexander Hayne, Jacob Wilson, John Stern, even Sam Tharmarathnem's in there. BDM, Germany's a great race as well.
This is a great race. Patrick Dickman, Christian Seibold, 2 friends who both top 8 at a Pro Tour, then top 8 at a Grand Prix together. But is there a German word for the feeling of unease as you are being pursued by one of the greatest players of all time? Is it Budafreud?
Yeah, it could be something like that. But is he here? That's the question. I have not seen Kai yet this weekend. I'm not at all sure that he is in the building. And that sound is big relief if that turns out to be true.
Well, sure, that would make, but I would still be scared of him.
For sure. And then Hungary, Tamás will win, but will it be Gled or Nagy? Let's move on. Italy is next, and there are a cast of thousands who are playing in this event who can win. But fundamentally, straight Mengucci and Estrati, 21 points each. That's what they're looking at. Let's move on. We get to one of the most storied nations. BDM, it's Japan.
Yeah, Yuya Watanabe, obviously just one of the greatest players of all time. He's 7 points ahead of Kentaro Yamamoto. You also have Shuei Nakamura and Makihiro Mahara within striking distance. I mean, honestly, anyone there can get there, but it's a great race when you have the likes of those players.
Singapore should be toe-to-toe. Kelvin Chu, Chapman Sim. For the Slovak Republic, Matej Zatlkai leads even flock by 4 points. Let's move on. Let's take you to Spain, which has a big slew again of players. Javier Dominguez leads that. BDM, talk to me about these other 2, though. Sweden and Chinese Taipei.
So Joel Larson, Dennis Rashid, 2 players who've had, coming off of a couple of great seasons, had a little bit of a kind of a little bit of a dip this year. And, what better way to sort of rebound your season with, a strong finish here at this event and a seat at the World Magic Cup.
Yeah, and then Chinese Taipei, Hao Shan Huang was on 12 points 7 days ago. Now he wins the Grand Prix. Now he's on 20. Right. A really tight race.
Right. Su Chingguo, a player who knows a little bit. He won the first World Magic Cup championship.
Indeed. And finally, the big one, race number 13. It's the United States. Now, let's be honest. Reed Duke should win this race. 18 points clear. Basically, once he gets to half past Saturday, he's more than going to win that.
Owen said his chase after Reed starts with Reed finishing dead last.
Yeah, that's a pretty good reflection. Reed Duke likely to be, but that said, all those others, let's see, could Owen Turtonwell, Joshua Layton, Tom Martell, Patrick Shane, Sam Black, Reed Sorbetcher, Stark, Fennell McLean, could any of those make a top 8? Well, let's see. They've got 24 Pro Tour top 8s between them so far, and if any of them makes it into the top 8, then things maybe become live in that race. We'll keep you up to date with all the races all weekend long. We will tell you whether Generator Servant gets the job done in Standard or in Draft. We'll tell you
it'll get it done in Draft.
Yeah. We'll tell you about Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year, 24 World Cups, 24 World Championship slots, 72 World Magic Cup captains, and the small matter, BDM, of the hunt for Platinum. Because Platinum is the pinnacle of the game. Why don't we take a look and see who is in the running? Already you've got your guaranteeds down the bottom. But as we work our way up, BDM, needing a certain threshold, it gets tougher and tougher. If you're Patrick Dickman, top 75. If you're Seth Manfield, you need the top 25. And if you're David Ochoa, for example, top 16. And then there are all the players trying to get in the top 25 to come back to Honolulu.
Luis Scott Vargas, not pictured here. Right. He needs a top 8.
Yes, but as he said on Twitter, I've won matches before. It is going to be an astonishing 3 days here at Pro Tour Magic 2015 in Portland. We hope you will join us for more than 35 hours of live video coverage, plus all the text you can eat. The best players in the world are here. We're here. We thank you for being here. and we'll see you in the morning. For Brian David-Marshall, I'm your host, Rich Hagan, saying bye.